What's up, Barnhill family, and welcome back to your home for all things combat sports.
Yo.
Guys, we are coming at you today. We hinted at it last week when we did the deep dive of Pereira versus Gane. Today, the wait is over. Deep dive on Freedom 250, main event, Topuria versus Gaethje. As we always do, we're looking at this thing from a striking, grappling, and intangibles perspective. And Nick, as we also always do, we start with the striking. And there's a lot of meat on the bone here as far as the striking's concerned. Obviously, Ilia Topuria has had a legendary run of just knocking out champion after champion, pound for pound after pound for pound. And he even went as far as to have a funeral for his defeated fighters, if you saw that.
Stuff.
So Justin Gaethje got the White Rose for the White House.
Yep.
And when you look and you think back to, what Ilia has put together over the last couple of years, very few runs can rival that. But Justin Gaethje, I feel like, is not getting the respect and the shine that he deserves. Justin Gaethje, we'll get into this in intangibles, 7-2 as an underdog. He has some emphatic knockouts of his own.
Right.
He can head kick you. He can knock you out with his punches. Let's start with just the technical breakdown. Where do you see each guy having success as far as striking's concerned?
So Justin Gaethje is a pressure forward fighter, right? And so is Ilia Topuria. So I'm interested to see who takes the step back first. Justin has so many ways to make this fight interesting. And of course, we're going to see a majority of striking in this fight. Obviously, we've seen Justin in recent years finally start to utilize a little bit of wrestling, but for the most part, he keeps it on the feet. And Ilia Topuria is just a knockout artist these days. Everybody knows he came from the regional scene, submitting everybody, but as of late, he's just a KO artist. So when these two get into boxing range is where I really think the fun will start for the main event. When Justin Gaethje is able to get into these clinch style situations where he's closed the distance and almost in that dirty boxing range, he's so good and so tricky with his shot selection. And I think that might be the best place for him to do damage against Ilia Topuria. Now, it's difficult when you're trying to figure out Ilia's cadence, right? Because when Ilia does come across the cage, his first several shots, and you can go back and look at the last few fights he's been in, there's no real feints that come before it. Like you see a lot of fighters, they'll come out and the first 30 seconds is nothing but all of the feints that they have in their arsenal. And then by then, these high-level fighters have picked up on it. They've got their reads. Ilia Topuria throws live rounds at the very beginning of the fight, and he does that to gain the respect of his opponents, right? He's not just throwing a bunch of feints out there to see how you react. He's putting power on your face, and he's putting power behind these shots just to make sure that you start reacting when he does decide to feint. And I think that Justin Gaethje's got to be wary of that because Justin does tend to get hit by far less superior strikers than Ilia Topuria. But he also is a durable guy. He knows how to roll with punches really well. And while Justin does end up getting hit a lot, he also finds moments to counter in those wild situations. The best thing I can say about Justin's ability to catch Ilia early, not Ilia earlier, is whenever Ilia does come in, usually he likes to start his combos with a long jab. He covers a lot of distance with that step, right? Everybody knows there's multiple ways to throw a jab. You can keep your feet planted, you can move over to one side or the other and kind of dip your body down. Ilia does all that well, but he usually likes to cover distance by shuffling his feet forward as he throws his jab. Very high level. He throws it in a different rhythm than what you're expecting, right? He knows how to move in that triangular position. He's always kind of taking his head off the center line, and then you don't know which one of those is a defensive move or which one he's going to actually fire shots off of. But Justin will have the ability to see what's coming, and luckily for him, Ilia Topuria doesn't overthrow high kicks. I don't think even to this day that
he doesn't throw them at all.
Yeah, thrown a kick over the waistline of anybody on the UFC roster. So Justin Gaethje does wind up dipping his head down pretty low when he's getting out of the way of shots. And I'd say against most fighters, that's a big issue. Think about his fight with Fiziev. Like Fiziev saw that coming. He tried to throw some head kicks. He was able to get through all those and beat Fiziev twice. But Ilia Topuria does throw majority hands. And it's not even that he doesn't throw uppercuts and he doesn't throw hooks, but to get the fight started, he loves his straight punches, his 1s and 2s. He'll try to sit in the pocket to find that 3 at the end of his 2, the same way he got Charles Oliveira out of there. But there's going to be an opportunity for Justin Gaethje to kind of do his thing and get into that close range from dipping down low, getting under those straight punches, and then tying up with Ilia some way. Obviously, Ilia is also very good in the dirty boxing range. So I think the exchanges that take place right there, where they're chest to chest, and one of them's head is right there on the side of the shoulder, where they're reasonably safe, is going to be where this fight gets most interesting. But closing that distance is what's going to be most difficult for Justin. And one thing I see Justin do a lot, and I actually like this because he seems to put a lot of power on it, is his leg kicks, especially the inside leg kick. And that will be available to him against Topuria. But one thing that I noticed with Topuria is he's always willing to eat a shot and absorb a kick to the legs to make sure that he's doing what we call beat the kick and throw some heavy hands as soon as he knows that kick's coming. Justin Gaethje doesn't really move off center line when he kicks to the leg. Think about Alex Pereira. When he does decide to do those inside or outside leg kicks, he's off on an angle, so it's kind of hard to reach him. Justin Gaethje doesn't quite do that as well. He's kind of there to be hit, and I think that that's a place to be concerned if you're a Justin Gaethje fan. But I'd also think that Justin Gaethje's head kicks are underrated. Think about what he did to Dustin Poirier. That was brilliant. Yeah. Think about the time he was fighting Fiziev and threw a head kick and almost landed flush from the dirty boxing range. So we know he's flexible enough to get those head kicks up there. And when we saw Volkanovski fight Topuria, he was throwing a lot of kicks, high, low, everywhere in between, but he was almost spamming them. So Ilia, as a high-level fighter, was able to get his reads and make sure that his backhand was protecting his face. But if Justin Gaethje can time some kicks, of course, throw that inside leg kick because you throw it well, but get off center line when you do it. And then when Ilia Topuria starts to do that thing, he gets heavy on his lead leg and he starts to chop forward. He's off the center line. He's in that triangular motion. That's when you can look to throw a weird timed break the rhythm style head kick, and I think that might be a good option for Topuria to keep for Gaethje to keep Topuria kind of at bay and avoid like him doing the beat the kick timing drill. So I know that's a long-winded way to say that the kicks will be open for Justin Gaethje, but I just think that the way he throws them and where he throws them from, as long as he can angle off, is a big determining factor as to if he's going to have success chopping those legs of Ilia Topuria.
Yeah, I think the kicks are going to play a big factor for sure. A couple of things about Topuria, and then I'll get into Gaethje. One thing that I really love about Ilia Topuria is he has boiled down the MMA striking game to where he only utilizes a few things.
Yeah.
And that's what makes his striking style to me so beautiful, because he throws straight punches, he throws some hooks and some uppercuts when he's inside, and he throws low leg kicks, mostly calf. Sometimes he'll chop the quad, never anything above the waist.
Right.
That's not, he doesn't utilize a whole lot of clinch. If you initiate clinch with him, and I'll get to that in a second because I think Justin probably will initiate some clinch. If you initiate clinch with him, he's very good there. If you use that close range to try to grapple, obviously his grappling is very good. His takedown defense is very good. But Ilia Topuria thrives pushing his opponents back, striking with them in a close boxing range or just on the inside of kickboxing range, and using heavy hands. And as you said, I love that you pointed that out, making his opponents respect his power from the gate.
Yeah.
How many times do we see this? And it mostly happens on the lower level guys. You don't see a lot of the new, high level UFC fighters doing this, but where two guys will be in the cage with each other, a good 7 or 8 feet from each other, throwing fully extended combinations.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, are we shadow boxing or are we fighting? And a lot of times they think, oh, I'm doing something because I'm feinting. You're really actually just kind of giving your opponent some reads on you.
Right.
Ilia is really good with keeping his cards close to his chest.
Yes.
He's not doing anything from the outside. In fact, he's not throwing any feints at all until he puts his power on you. He's going to come straight across and hit you with a hard jab to the face. Okay, so next time I throw that or I feint that jab, or when I do it for the first time, your hands are going to go up. When your hands go up, I'm going to rip you to the body. I'm going to see what type of mechanic you utilize to defend my big shots because I'm throwing heavy out of the gate.
Yeah.
And Justin Gaethje, I feel like, is a very crafty veteran. He's not just going to give up his reads early either. He's going to kind of wait. Okay, I know Ilia is going to crack. I've been cracked before. I've been knocked out before, yes, but I'm also willing to bite down. I am in my late 30s, but I'm still pretty durable. Yeah, Max Holloway knocked me out, but we were throwing down there. I mean, that shot that Max clipped Justin with, it would be fair to say it potentially could have knocked Ilia out as well.
Yeah.
We don't know how durable Ilia's chin is because nobody's really, obviously aside from Jai Herbert, landed really flush on Ilia. And to his credit, he recovered very well from that. But
that one elbow from Charles Oliveira that he ate like it was lunch was the other big shot that he showed to absorb very well.
Yes, and that is true. I'd forgotten about that one. But the Jai, to Ilia's credit, he recovered very well from that head kick. Now, Jai Herbert is no Justin Gaethje. We know that.
Right.
Couple of things for Justin where he could have some advantage, because I don't think I'm going to break any news in saying that I think Ilia Topuria probably has the striking advantage here.
Right.
He's never been knocked out. Justin has. If Justin loses a fight, it's either by knockout or submission, and it's more knockout than it is submission.
Never by decision.
He does not go to a decision. Right. So Ilia has a clean track record of never having been knocked out, never having ever even lost a fight. In his last 3 fights, he's won emphatically, knocking out some of the best strikers that the UFC has ever seen.
Right.
Justin Gaethje also has some really good knockouts, but he's also been knocked out by Dustin Poirier, by Eddie Alvarez, by Max Holloway. So I think he's 3 knockouts, 2 submissions. So the submissions would come at the hands of Khabib and Charles Oliveira. Yeah. So, I mean, the fighters that I just named there, right?
The best of the best.
That's who Justin Gaethje loses to.
Right.
If you're anybody else, he beats you. Now, the bad news for Justin is Ilia Topuria has knocked out some of the fellas on that list that I just read for you.
And he belongs soundly in that group of legends.
Exactly.
Already.
And so where can Justin have some success striking? Quick break in the action, guys, today to tell you about our sponsor, Kalshi, the predictions market where you can trade on real-world events, or in our case, MMA fights. And right now, if you can believe it, on Kalshi, Justin Gaethje only has about a 20% chance to win, according to the market. And for those of you that have followed his career, you know that counting him out has been a mistake in the past. But what Nick and I really love about Kalshi is that those of you out there that really know ball, the ones that understand this game at a deep level, are the ones that move the lines, unlike sportsbook odds makers, which we've seen for far too long. And as a special thanks to the Barnhill Brothers viewers, Kalshi's giving away $20. All you have to do is download the Kalshi app and use the promo code Barnhill. So if you think you know MMA better than the crowd, download Kalshi and put your prediction to the test. Thanks to Kalshi, back to the video. Well, he lands more than Ilia on a per minute basis. Yeah. Justin's got a higher output. Ilia is not a volume machine like a Max Holloway. He's an economical striker.
Quality
when he throws,
over quantity.
Exactly. He makes every shot count. Justin lands a lot more strikes than Ilia does. His defense is also not as good, so that's the flip side of that. He absorbs more strikes.
Right.
I do believe Justin's dangerous. We did see the one time Ilia got rocked in his whole MMA career, not just UFC, in his whole MMA career, came at the hands of a head kick.
Yeah.
You know who has a great head kick? Justin Gaethje.
He sure does.
So Justin Gaethje, and he lands it from really close range.
Yeah.
He can be in a range where you wouldn't normally land a head kick. Think about the Dustin Poirier fight, as you brought up earlier. He can land big head kicks from a range that seems like you wouldn't be able to land a head kick. Not quite to like a Stephen Wonderboy Thompson or Michael Venom Page level, but to the point where it's like, man, Ilia Topuria needs to be wary of that if he gets in that close range, that it's not just the boxing that you're going to deal with. It's not just the clinch, but there could be a sneaky little head kick coming up there.
Yeah.
So that, and then the other thing is the clinch, because Justin is very good in the clinch. Against the cage, we saw against Paddy Pimblett when they fought, had a lot of success from the close range, big elbows, good shots up the middle, used the clinch to his advantage, big knees to the body, stuff like that. Justin Gaethje, I think, and he said, I'm coming to the White House lawn to put on a show.
Yeah.
I'm not coming there to just move around and hope I don't get knocked out by Ilia. If I get knocked out, I get knocked out, but I'm coming to knock him out. Make no mistake. And I think that this may be the most wild fighter that Ilia has ever faced. Because if you think about Max got in there and he was doing his thing. Max was having some success in the rounds, but Max is not going to throw caution to the wind unless it's the last 10 seconds of the fight.
Right.
Volkanovski's never going to do that last 10-second point down. Volkanovski's a very intelligent, maybe the highest IQ fighter in the game today. Charles Oliveira said, I made a mistake. I should have stayed on the outside. I thought I could handle his power. I stepped in and I got clipped. Justin Gaethje, you know what you're getting out of him.
Yeah.
Car crashes, as he likes to call it.
Yeah.
He's coming in there and he doesn't care what the outcome is because he's probably, I mean, I don't want to say he doesn't care what the outcome. Obviously, he wants to win.
Right.
He's been chasing undisputed his whole career. But he's not going to change up the way he fights to try to win an undisputed belt cautiously. Justin Gaethje's coming out to be the human highlight.
Right.
And he's either going to be highlighted and slimed out, or he's going to pull off the biggest upset in recent memory. Maybe, would it be a bigger upset than Sean versus Hamzat?
Yeah, well, that's the only one that comes to mind, especially in MMA, that would be equal to or bigger than this. But because of the stage being the one-of-one card that is Freedom 250, I think that Justin Gaethje would for sure wind up being the most insane, shocking of the world if he does knock out Ilia Topuria. And, you know, according to most lightweights out there in the world that have fought Justin Gaethje and all the other legends that have been coming and going from that division, they say Justin Gaethje hits the hardest of all of them.
Yes.
Habib said that. I think Dustin Poirier said that. There's a list of them. And now I would put Ilia Topuria in that same realm. The only other one that sits in there, I'd say the top three heaviest handed lightweights of all time, Conor McGregor, Ilia Topuria, and Justin Gaethje. So I'm really excited to see two of those three guys compete for this main event title fight. But one thing that sticks out to me, and the reason I say this fight could end up ending in round one, is Justin Gaethje gets hit, but he gets hit a little bit more than a fan would maybe like to see their favorite fighter get absorbed. But he actually does get hit with uppercuts kind of often. You know, Paddy the Baddy is not the striker that Ilia Topuria is, not even close. But he was able to land some pretty nice uppercuts on Justin Gaethje. And again, Ilia Topuria likes to throw his straight punches, especially when they're outside of range and he's trying to close distance. But he always brings pressure and has the ability to push his opponent back towards the cage. And when he does that, that's when his arsenal of striking does wind up getting a little bit more vast. And he'll throw his body hooks and he'll throw his uppercuts and stuff like that. So Justin Gaethje really does a good job with his high guard. But in 4-ounce gloves, it's really easy to sneak shots right up the middle, easy to sneak shots around the side. And you can't sit in the pocket like that with Ilia Topuria very long. And so that's one of those situations where if Justin Gaethje comes out and shows us the same kind of defense we've seen even as recent as the Paddy the Baddy fight, I could see this fight ending very early and going Ilia Topuria's way. But we also know that him and Trevor Whitman are like one of the best teams in MMA. They just understand each other, so much so that they've gone into business with one another, whether it's the gym or Onyx, the gear company. They're synced up. And I'm sure that they've broken this fight down. They've figured out what he does wrong, what he does right. One of those situations like where Ilia Topuria says that when it's time to fight somebody, I don't start with their fight tape. I start with my fight tape to see what they could be seeing out of me and then make sure I button those issues up, patch any holes that could be in my game. And then I go to look at my opponent's fights from the previous years and then break them down. So I think Justin Gaethje might need to take that page. You know, it's a little too late now, but I'm sure in the camp that's what they were doing. And the same thing I was going to say about the uppercuts can be said for Justin Gaethje. I think that he will have some success with uppercuts. We know inside in that dirty boxing range, he's good at throwing a hook. And even though he throws it to land, he has a really good ability to throw a hook and then also leave it behind their head to sort of work as like a half plumb. Mm-hmm. And then he can throw his uppercuts from there. He's really good with that. Sat Rafael Fiziev down with a beautiful variation of that. So the uppercuts will be there for both guys. Like high guard is done well by both of them. Ilia Topuria is defensively more sound, but there are opportunities to find him because he gets heavy on that lead leg and he can't move. You can't move quite as well when your weight's sitting in your lead leg. So when he dips down like that, there could be opportunities for Justin Gaethje to close that distance, get into his dirty boxing, and then find some of those uppercuts. We know he's really clean there. But Ilia Topuria also, aside from those straight punches that are so nice, has really good uppercuts. He has really good hooks. He knows when to throw the power. And Ilia also decides his shot selection is one of those things that it's all about sensitivity. because some fighters will go out there and every shot is at 100%, and that's why they gas out.
Yeah.
Ilia is very good at preserving his energy. He keeps himself calm. Like you said earlier, he doesn't over feint. He doesn't show you everything before he starts to unload some offense. He's very, you can see calmness and no tense shoulders. He's calm in the pocket. He likes to close distance with micro steps. And as long as the coast is clear, as long as nothing's coming his way, he's going to inch closer and closer. And he makes sure that his positioning for his feet are in the right spot, so he's at a good angle, an advantageous angle to land big shots, and that's when he can come over the top with some big stuff. Justin Gaethje will be there to be hit, but how many of those shots can he take, and how well can he respond when Ilia does decide to pull the trigger and start closing distance? How can he get into some sort of an overhook or a wizard type of position, or wind up in a plum position, half plum, to get his dirty boxing going? That's where the difference is going to be made in this. And I think that depending on how round one looks is going to tell us exactly who's going to win this fight. If Ilia Topuria enters into the danger zone with Justin Gaethje and winds up eating some shots, and that causes him to be a little bit more reserved as the rounds continue, I think Justin Gaethje's chances go up significantly. But if Ilia Topuria starts to get in his groove in round one, which we've seen him do many times, it could be a long night, or not a long night. It could be a short night for Justin Gaethje, because he does get hit a lot, and it does concern me as a fan of Justin Gaethje to see how often a guy even like Paddy the Baddy can land his big punches on him. If Ilia gets those same opportunities, it's going to be lights out.
Yeah, so striking advantage I'm going to give to Ilia, but there's one more thing I want to make mention of, and there's very few things you can watch in Ilia's game and then sit back and critique.
Right.
Two things that stick out to me. You mentioned one of them already. He gets heavy in his lead leg.
Yes.
Justin Gaethje is extremely accurate with leg kicks.
Mm-hmm.
The other is that Ilia does sometimes collect his feet. And that's a striking term. What does collect your feet mean? That means, you want to have a good base underneath you when you strike. You don't want too wide of a base, but you don't want too narrow of a base. Collecting your feet means I put my 2 feet almost together for a second. And it's only a split second, but he does do it more often than you would like to see. And when you're fighting an opponent who has extremely good, powerful, and highly accurate low kicks, there's an opportunity there. So if Justin Gaethje, and I'm sure Trevor Whitman and the team have seen this and dissected it, if I can watch it and realize that he's doing that, certainly these guys can, some of these brilliant minds.
Sure.
So if they can devise a game plan to where they rip Ilia's legs with low kicks when he collects the feet, and when he gets really heavy in that front leg, you can start to damage the wheels of Topuria. And if he can't walk you down as easily as he normally can because his legs are labored because he's eaten some massive low kicks, that's where Justin Gaethje can start to find his real moments. So chopping the tree down, I think, is a big X factor for Justin Gaethje. But that said, I'm giving the striking advantage to Ilia Topuria. It's hard not to when you look at the track record since the day he signed with the UFC. The guy has power and skill almost like no one else.
Yeah, as far as striking is concerned, I give the advantage to Ilia as well, but only by a little bit. I think Justin's going to make this a very interesting fight. Ilia just has pinpoint accuracy, and his timing is on point. He's also very good at breaking rhythm. Justin Gaethje is one of those guys that does have a rhythm of his own. It's kind of unique. He's not a cookie cutter fighter, and he doesn't fight like everybody else. He's got his style and his positions that he really likes. But Ilia Topuria is really good at timing things and especially utilizing feints once he's gained your respect through throwing heavy power. So I'm interested to see how Ilia can force Justin into giving openings for big shots, because Justin Gaethje does have a couple tendencies that stick out to me, right? He loves to dip his head down low, and while Ilia never really throws head kicks, if you put your head down there by the leg kicks, it might wind up getting touched, even if he doesn't kick over the waistline very often. So that is one of the issues. Also, Justin Gaethje, when punches are coming his way, he tends to get kind of tall, and even though his high guard is there, again, 4-ounce gloves don't give you much padding to catch shots. So Ilia Topuria, he does lunge in forward a lot, and sometimes being heavy on the lead leg can be a negative, but at times when you're willing to throw as big a power shots as Ilia, like we've seen Ilia throw hooks before and throw combinations that are so lead leg dominant that he catches himself on the cage, right?
Yeah.
He'll throw something so big that he falls forward, and if it weren't for the cage, he would have fallen on his face, but he's able to catch himself. And it's sort of just in his style. Like, if you're going to be one of the heaviest punchers in the UFC, you have to be able to generate that force, and he knows how to put all 100 and probably on fight night 180 pounds worth of his weight into those shots. And so that's the key difference there, is how each guy is going to be able to defend when they both decide to let go and really unleash some power. Justin Gaethje's good at disguising. He'll pepper shots and then eventually put a big one on you, but Ilia Topuria is just as good at that, and his power is a little bit more on display, and as of recent has been more effective than Justin's.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect place to bookend the striking. You did give the advantage to Topuria ever so slightly. So Topuria. Let's move into grappling now. Okay. This is interesting because Justin Gaethje, even though he's a decorated wrestler, has not been known in his MMA career to take people down.
Right.
He only has one submission on his record. He likes to win his fights standing up. He likes to knock people out. He likes to create highlight reel finishes.
You don't get the main event at the White House by being a wrestler that likes to use his wrestling. You get it by being a human highlight reel.
Exactly. Or the potential, or you could make an argument for the number one pound for pound in Ilia Topuria. It's either him or Islam. So as far as the wrestling is concerned, we're seeing some training footage of Justin working some pretty heavy offensive wrestling.
Yeah.
Now, Justin Gaethje has been taken down by people that have really no business taking him down, people that are far less accomplished wrestlers than Justin is. He's never really made it a priority, but it seems like with this camp, he may be looking to initiate takedowns. Now, I'm wondering one of two things. Is he going to try to take Ilia down to eat minutes on the clock and win some top, ground and pound exchanges? That seems unlikely to me. I think because one, Ilia has a 93% takedown defense, so it's very hard to get him down. And two, Ilia, if you look at his career prior to the UFC, is a submission ace. And if you watch him train on the mats, he's as fluid as I've ever seen anybody who's not I'm not talking about Gordon Ryan or, a BJJ specialist, no-gi guy.
As far as fighters go.
As far as MMA fighters are concerned, I've never seen somebody move so fluid on the ground as Ilia in these training videos. So that kind of leads me to the question of, well, why is Justin training all of this takedown? And I think it's to create opportunities for wild moments, because I feel like Justin knows that when you're in this range, hey, both, high guards are up, we're boxing, we're engaging. Ilia probably has the advantage there. But if Justin can shoot a double leg and make Ilia scramble, make him pummel for the underhooks, make him try to defend it, that may create that split-second opportunity to land a big elbow or land a big hook. And we know Justin's just nasty in close range. I think that's why he's working offensive wrestling. A lot of people are missing the point there, and I think they're seeing that and saying, oh, man, Justin already knows that he can't hang with this guy on the ground, on the feet, so his game plan is going to be to wrestle. And I'm like, not so fast. I don't think that's what Gaethje's doing here. I think he's trying to use this wrestling to create some offensive scrambles that he can exploit to land big power.
Yeah, I think Justin Gaethje would even admit to us that the best head movement in this fight is going to go to Ilia Topuria. Ilia may have the best head movement in the UFC. He's real good at getting out of the way of shots, and he has his, boxing head movement down to a T. He's really sharp in that realm. But when you can get into a clinch situation, head movement goes out the window. Now both guys are fighting for position. They're fighting for overhooks and underhooks or a body lock type of situation. And I think that is exactly what Justin Gaethje is going to utilize his offensive wrestling to do. He's not looking to hit blast doubles and get on top, because even look at Charles Oliveira, who's a more decorated MMA grappler than Justin Gaethje. He went to go take down Ilia Topuria, wound it up on his back.
Exactly.
So it's not one of those situations where I think Justin Gaethje can just change levels, shoot in, take Ilia Topuria down, and control him. Even if he does take him down, Ilia Topuria is very good with his submissions. He's very good with attacking things just to create space and get back up to his feet. And everybody knows that offensive grappling is arguably the most taxing on your gas tank aspect of MMA.
Yeah.
So Justin Gaethje can't afford to go out there and start just wrestling, because he'll wind up being gassed as the fight progresses. And so the clinch work is what this offensive grappling will open up. And of course, Ilia Topuria is a pressure forward fighter. So most of the time, at least one of his feet are in that Monster Energy can. He's controlling the center of the octagon.
Or he's pushing you back to the cage, one of the two.
Exactly. So he's really good with that situation. But Justin Gaethje can start to show some level change to feints. He can probably get into a situation where he can close distance. Now, Ilia is very good at countering once somebody does try to come in and get into range with him. But Justin Gaethje could use that to get inside, and that would negate the head movement that is so good out of Ilia Topuria. You know, like I was saying earlier, his ability to chop and stay off the center line is as high level as anybody in MMA. But Justin Gaethje could negate all of that by just getting inside, getting into a clinch situation. And sometimes, you know, when you're in that pummel position, you'll see guys that have an underhook, an overhook, we call it 50-50.
Yeah.
Justin Gaethje doesn't even really concern himself with the underhook all that often. Most of the time, he's using it to punch the body or to punch the chin, try to go with an uppercut, or even use like a shoulder bump just so he can throw a hook with that little bit of space that gets created. It's very high-level stuff, and it's all nuanced. It may look like chaos, but it's controlled chaos when Justin Gaethje's doing it. So it's probably a good idea that Justin Gaethje, as of recently, has been adding a little bit of grappling on the offensive side to his arsenal of tools. We saw him doing it against Fiziev. You know, he was able to get to those clinch positions on Fiziev in their rematch just by closing distance, getting into those positions, and then right there he knows he has an advantage. So I don't look for Justin to go and shoot a single leg or a double leg or a high crotch or really try to string anything together to get Ilia to the ground. I think he's going to use it to try to get Ilia stationary, whether that's up against the cage or out in the open, but out of his preferred fighting stance, which is that bladed, small, good high guard, and always ready to fire offense type of style that Ilia is known for.
Yeah, and so let's say for a minute that, you know, we're assuming wrong here, that Justin is actually going to execute a full takedown, or that Ilia, for that matter, is going to initiate a takedown on Justin, because Ilia can get the fight to the ground if he wants to as well. And if Justin starts landing some of these car crash moments, as he likes to call them, maybe Ilia does, as an intelligent fighter, look to take a breather on the ground. Ilia has some ground control time, on average about 2 minutes per fight.
He put Charles Oliveira in a crucifix in a matter of seconds.
Exactly. So I don't think we can write off the fact that Justin Gaethje's a wild man.
Yeah.
Maybe Ilia, you know, if he does eat a few big shots and Justin's creating these wild moments, because Ilia thrives in the pocket, right? If it's just chaos, who knows what'll happen. So maybe Ilia says, look, I'm going to get this fight to the ground. And Ilia was a submission ace prior to being in the UFC. And so Justin, having only one on his record, now he's only ever been submitted by Charles and Khabib.
Right.
So Charles has more submissions than anybody in UFC history, and Khabib is arguably the best grappler in UFC history.
Right.
So it's not like Justin Gaethje's just getting subbed by everybody, right? So it's going to be difficult for Ilia to find a sub. But let's assume for the minute that the fight is on the canvas. How do you see that going? Who do you see having the advantage in that moment?
So Ilia Topuria's grappling seems to be buttoned up, from the judo tosses to the wrestling to the Greco-Roman style, even the jiu-jitsu submission and his ability to chain submissions together. So high level. And even though we don't get to see it in action in the octagon, when you go watch his training footage, you can see the level that he's at. He's a high level black belt, especially for MMA jiu-jitsu and MMA grappling. One thing that sticks out to me, not just with Justin Gaethje, but with all wrestlers, is they wind up giving their back at times just for the sake of getting back to their feet. And sometimes when you've got tricky, crafty submission aces in that situation with you, you can wind up compromising something as you go to build up a base, and then all of a sudden you've got somebody who, like a human backpack on your back. You know, think of, like, I think Michael Chandler wound up in like a turtle position, and he went up building a base, and then Charles Oliveira like jumped on his back. That's the one that kind of sticks out to me. But Justin Gaethje is a wrestler as well, and sometimes wrestlers, because of the way they're wired, right, never put your back on the ground, always be looking to fight up. Sometimes having your back on the ground, if you wind up there in a fight, is safer than turning your back and looking to build base and get back up to your feet. There are ways to create space if you're the person on bottom in an MMA fight, and it's usually not just to turn over, because if somebody knows how to ride the wave, and let's just say they're in mount, for example, if they're in mount, they're starting to throw punches, you immediately go to get back up to your feet, but your first instinct is to, push off the hips, start to shrimp out a little bit, create a little space to get on your side, and then start to build your base. But then somebody can transition perfectly over to a back, and I think Ilia would have the submission skills to submit Justin Gaethje. So I worry about that aspect, and I'm not really thinking we're going to see a whole lot of grappling out of these two men. But if there is a advantage for finishing the fight with grappling, of course it would go to Ilia. If there's an ability to utilize grappling to get to preferred positions, I think that would go to Justin Gaethje, but not exactly positions where he is looking for submissions. Think about when he had Paddy the Baddy on the ground. He was able to drop Paddy with really heavy shots multiple times in their fight. And instead of looking to what most people do, go from that like snap down position, instead of going to the back, trying to pass the arm and get to the back and look for submissions, he's just perfectly content with holding your head and then looking for damage from that north-south upside down position. It's very high level. A lot of people assume, because of the history of MMA, right? If somebody snaps down and you're kind of in like a turtle position, the next move is for them to figure out which side they're going to, spin around on and try to get to your back. Justin Gaethje doesn't do that. And so what we saw with Paddy the Baddy was like he was waiting for that moment to come. Sometimes you'll throw an arm up to catch the leg, or sometimes you'll wait just to see them go that way so you can Granby roll out of it and sort of just create a scramble. But Justin Gaethje's perfectly content with that like north-south upside down position, hold right there on the head and start to deal damage. So that's the most interesting aspect of the grappling side of things that I see for Justin Gaethje. And Ilia Topuria, I'd almost love to see him start to show us some wrinkles on the submissions, especially with how good he looks on the training mats. But I don't expect a whole lot of grappling in this one.
Yeah, so I'm going to give the grappling advantage to Ilia as well. I with the caveat that I do think if we're talking about, on the feet clinch work grappling, I kind of do see Justin maybe having a small advantage there, but Ilia has way more submission victories than Justin does. I think he's got the clearer path to submission, and I think that his takedown defense is going to be difficult as far as Justin initiating and getting takedowns, because he's got almost 100% takedown defense. He's defending more than 90% of the takedowns that are thrown his way. So I'm going to give that to Ilia. So Ilia for striking and for grappling for me, and I think we kind of are ready to move into the final segment, which is intangibles. Now, there's so many. For me, the two intangibles that stick out, one I keep coming back to. What was the one time Ilia Topuria was rocked in the UFC? By a head kick.
Yep.
Jai Herbert. Justin Gaethje has an unpredictable head kick that he can throw from close range. If he can land that, he can make it a wild, wild main event. And number two, Justin Gaethje, I believe, is 7-2 as an underdog in the UFC. So most of the time people are counting him out. That's when he rises to the occasion. Now, I know he was an underdog against Khabib, and we know how that went. But he was an underdog against Paddy, a pretty reasonable one. And not many people were giving Justin much of a chance. They were actually quite upset that a 38-year-old Justin Gaethje was getting an interim title fight, and he turned the tides on everybody. He turned the tables. So really, those to me stick out as the biggest two intangibles. As far as Ilia is concerned, what's an intangible? Well, Justin does dip that head quite often. Do we see Ilia perhaps land the head kick? Does he pull a tool out of his arsenal that he's never used inside of the UFC's octagon before and throw a high kick of some kind and make things really interesting? Where do you land on the intangibles aspect of this?
So Justin Gaethje is absolutely able to win this fight. I think he's a live dog to the highest level. And not that long ago, we saw an American that was certainly not the favorite in Sean Strickland pull off an upset victory over Khamzat Chimaev. And that was a grappler versus striker type of fight. And I know the striking is a very unique style. It's a jab-heavy type of fight that Sean Strickland fights, and Khamzat is a grappling-heavy style fighter. But nobody really gave Sean Strickland a chance. And in this fight, because maybe Sean opened my eyes, I feel like because Ilia is a preferred striker these days, and Justin Gaethje, of course, is a preferred striker, that gives more opportunities for both men to land big shots and have fight-changing moments. Because Justin Gaethje has crazy power. As we mentioned earlier, a lot of the lightweights in the division say that he hits harder than anybody they've ever fought. I'm sure if they all fought Ilia Topuria as well, he would be the next guy in line with Justin Gaethje. but more people have said Justin Gaethje hits harder than anybody they've ever fought than Ilia Topuria. So I think that the fact that this is likely going to wind up being a striking match to the highest level and a very exciting one at that gives Justin Gaethje a real chance. And look, I love Sean Strickland. I didn't give him a whole big chance versus Khamzat Chimaev. I wasn't really, putting too much stock into him. Justin Gaethje, though, has that ability to end a fight with one single shot. He has the ability to make things very chaotic and messy. And a guy like Ilia Topuria thrives on technical precision. He's so high level, even down to training his brain and his eye muscles. And, he's doing the stuff that Lomachenko's been doing for years. He loves that control. He loves to be in control of the fight. He loves to have good order. And Justin Gaethje loves chaos, and he can control chaos, but it's only to an extent, right? Like, he's willing to take some shots more so than Ilia Topuria is willing to take shots. And I just think that maybe it's because the fight that happened at 328 with Khamzat and Sean is so fresh on my mind, but I didn't give Sean Strickland enough credit, and I didn't, think he was going to win that fight. And boy, was I wrong on that, totally wrong. And if Justin Gaethje is able to go out there and perform and have moments where he can, showcase what he's best at, which is chaos, which is striking, which is throwing a weird variety of shots that you don't really see coming, utilizing that Thai clinch style thing to throw dirty boxing opportunities in there. That's where I see Justin really having a lot of success in this fight. So it's a weird intangible, right? Because I'm kind of going off history that doesn't have to do with the either of these two fighters or the division. But for some reason, my body's just telling me, like, don't count out the next great American hope. Sean Strickland was that guy, but Justin Gaethje is also very aware of the situation, the magnitude of this fight, the fact that this could be Justin Gaethje's last fight, the fact that he was not content with an interim title. As a matter of fact, he threw it on the ground and said, I'm going to wait for the other one. I'm going to wait for the real undisputed. He's never actually gotten that undisputed belt. But how cool would it be if at the Freedom 250 card, the one of one, a guy who had contemplated retiring even before the interim fight with Patty, if he can go out there, beat arguably the best fighter that the division's ever seen in Ilia Topuria, arguably one of the pound-for-pound best fighters alive today, and if he can go do that on the White House lawn, make history, shock the world, and do something that nobody saw coming, I just have to lean a little bit towards Justin Gaethje as far as the intangibles are concerned, because it feels to me, because Ilia Topuria is such a cold-blooded killer, that he is actually putting more pressure on himself by being this brash, overly confident guy. Like, how does anybody have the confidence that he has to throw parties the night before you get in the cage with Charles Oliveira or Max Holloway or Volkanovski? He's already had the funeral content come out with Justin Gaethje. He's already changed his profile on Instagram to 18-0. And before he was the champion, he had champion of the UFC in his bio. So he's just one of those guys that is fine with pressure, but I feel like sometimes he mounts more pressure on himself than he even needs to, but it is part of the persona. And I think Justin Gaethje's going out there. He's not going to feel the pressure. People aren't expecting him to win this fight, and those are the most dangerous guys. A skilled veteran with tons of tricks, the ability to shut the lights out on almost anybody at the 155 division, and the ability to also just make fights interesting and unlike what his opponent was expecting. I think that is making Justin Gaethje a real dog in this one.
Yeah, I think that's beautifully said. I think there's no real relaxed vibe other than being a massive underdog that everybody's counting out, right?
Right.
Because nobody's expecting you to go in there and win the fight. And you can kind of, you don't have that mounted pressure on yourself. Now, yes, Justin Gaethje does want to win for his fans, his family. He wants to get that one thing that's escaped him in what has been a Hall of Fame career, has been winning that undisputed belt. So, Of course, he has some degree of pressure. But when you've already changed your Instagram profile, counting this victory, when you're having celebratory dinners, and you're a kind of guy that, people either love you or they hate you, and if they hate you, they want to see you lose, are just waiting for the moment that they can say, I told you so. You do kind of build mounted pressure on yourself. Now, is Ilia the type of person that actually thrives in that nature? Because some people thrive with the mounted pressure. So that's to be determined. All in all, I give the intangibles to Justin Gaethje because there's just more of them for me. I think Justin Gaethje is kind of my intangibles guy. Are you giving it to Gaethje as well?
Yeah, but I do want to give one intangible for Ilia Topuria as well, because this sort of does even it out for me, and it makes it very difficult to pick one or the other for the intangibles aspect of this conversation. Ilia Topuria is very meticulous and calculated. He doesn't take fights on short notice, and he shouldn't as a champion, but he also is very cerebral with his approach and sticking to a game plan. If you go back and watch the Charles Oliveira fight, one of the very first combinations, if not the first combination that he threw, was the same combination that ended the fight against Charles Oliveira.
Yeah.
And look, he starts with his jab. Like I said, no feints, live round jabs coming right to your face, and it got the respect out of Charles Oliveira. And then Charles, of course, like any fighter, goes, okay, I better figure this out. I better start throwing some offense at myself because I can't let him run away with the first round. And then right then and there is when we saw the 2-3. It's like a feint the jab and throw your 2-3. And that told me, because in hindsight, you can go back and watch the fight and really pick up on what these fighters are doing. Ilia Topuria was looking to do that same exact combination to Charles Oliveira, but do it in the first 30 seconds of the fight.
Yep.
And it's so cool to me that he was able to stick to his game plan and obviously deal with the grappling situation that happened, wound up on top, wound up in a crucifix. Of course, they got back to their feet. He was chopping the legs. Mark Goddard made Charles Oliveira stand up. And that's when the beginning of the end sort of happened, because then he started to do that jab again, forcing Charles Oliveira to close distance. And we know Charles is a more stationary stand-up guy, and the head was there to be hit. But it's so cool to me that Ilia Topuria had this technique. And look, it's a 1-2-3 at the end of the day. It's not like he's changing things up and making brand new combinations or throwing punches we haven't all seen before. But his ability to understand where a guy thrives and where a guy maybe lacks, like Charles Oliveira, he knows, okay, as long as I can find the opportunity, I know that what I've been working in camp is going to be available for me. It was available in the first 30 seconds. It just didn't end the fight. But as soon as he saw that opportunity come again, couple jabs to the head, get one going down to get Charles's guard a little bit flustered and out of position. And then, of course, that feint right into the 2-3 is all she wrote for Charles Oliveira. I thought that was really beautiful. And I didn't pick up on it when we watched the fight live. But, of course, as you go back and watch and you really start to dissect a fighter, you can see it. Ilia Topuria knew exactly what he was going to finish Charles Oliveira with in the first minute of that fight. And I believe if you watch the first minute of him versus Justin Gaethje, you'll be able to pick up what it is he wants to finish Justin Gaethje with. This isn't my official prediction, but I will tell you, I see an uppercut coming. I think that Ilia Topuria obviously throws a lot of straight punches really well. He's really good with his hooks, but Justin Gaethje's there to be uppercut. And I could honestly see, if we see an uppercut in the very first minute of this fight out of Ilia Topuria, that could be the finishing blow that Justin Gaethje takes.
That's the one he wants. Well, guys, make sure that you're subscribed to the channel if you aren't already, and turn on that bell notification, because we will be making our official predictions for all of the fights on Freedom 250 coming at you next week. So make sure that you check that out. You won't want to miss it. And until next time, oh, don't forget also, I will be live streaming this weekend, Bonfim versus Mohammed. So come hang out with me. We'll rip some card packs as we normally do, and I'll see you there. Take care.
Peace.